The 2025 Nissan Kicks. You're in it to win it. You want the latest in compact crossover technology. You want style, substance, safety features, but you don't have a big budget. There's 3 trim levels here, S all the way to the SR, and the price spread is quite extreme from the lower 20s all the way into the 30s. But there's a lot of competition. So what is Nissan offering? Well, they challenged their designers to make the exterior a little bit different. They were inspired by higher-end shoes or sneakers. So that's what the exterior looks like. It's like a shoe. And if you like shoes, you're gonna like the we're gonna talk about the interior space because that's probably what you care about more. And you know, aside from materials and everything, if you covered up this Nissan badge and you have some brand bias and you swapped out a Hyundai, Kia, Honda, Toyota badge, people would be like, this is a good interior space. And I agree. And basically all the new Nissans do a really good combination of material choice, usability, functionality, technology. Everything seems to work quite well. And they haven't messed up putting everything in the touchscreen. So let's start with the doors. The storage is amazing. They made an effort to make sure you can fit large refillable water bottles in the 30-ounce range. Same thing with the cup holder space, so you're not going to be fighting with it. All the physical controls are amazing in here. On the steering wheel, you're not fighting with that either. Lights are still physical. You still have a physical button for heated steering wheel if you get the upper trim. There's enough physical controls where you don't have to use the infotainment. That's my point. There are some things for HVAC in the infotainment, but everything else is in this capacitive layer down below. The infotainment itself, when you go up the upper trim levels, you get this bigger threaded screen. And I'm going to be honest, it's very generic looking, but it's super functional. For one thing, I never had an issue with wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay just connecting immediately in here without fuss. Like many cars that lags, delays, like my Honda, I get in and it takes like 2 days before my phone pairs up. This is not like that. The Bose audio system in the upper trim level, while it doesn't test great, it sounds good. And I think it's just the flexibility of EQ and having some of these near field headrest speakers they put in. And if you leave that on the lower end of the setting and you leave all of your settings kind of in the middle in terms of neutral, it sounds good. It does. The music seems alive. Most music you're going to enjoy for this price range. The other thing to talk about here is just the back seat space, which is very average. You know, it's what you expect in this class. You're going to be tight back there if you have a taller driver. In the rear cargo space, it has a manual lift gate, but the load floor is pretty low. It's easy to get things in and out. Cargo capacity again is it's a byproduct of the size of this vehicle. If you need more space, you're gonna have to go to a Rogue 100%, but I think they did balance everything in here really well. It's a great interior space. But I'm gonna take this into the shop and Jack's gonna talk about some of the mechanical things about the 25 Kicks.
In the shop with the second generation Nissan Kicks. If you've just watched our 1,000 horsepower ZR1 video, let this be a palate cleanser for you. So what do you need to know? Well, the Nissan Kicks, at least here in North America, is the spiritual successor to the beloved Nissan Juke. For the second generation, as you are basically used to at this point whenever a manufacturer puts out a new car, it's grown in size. They've attempted to make this a more premium experience while maintaining the low price point. While this is still built in Mexico, for this iteration of the Nissan Kicks, you get a longer wheelbase, a wider vehicle, and overall just bigger vehicle than it is replacing, and all of that is translated to far more interior space. You're also getting all-wheel drive now. It is an option in the second generation Kicks, where in the past it was not available. Essentially, when you add all-wheel drive to any trim level, not only do you get an on-demand all-wheel drive setup, you get a new suspension architecture in the rear. In the past, this was always a torsion beam vehicle. Now, this is either torsion beam or multi-link. As a con, when you go to all-wheel drive, not only do you incur about $1,500 in extra pricing, you also lose about 2 to 3 or maybe 4 cubic feet of cargo capacity. The maximum cargo capacity with this thing with the rear seats down is about 60 cubic feet. When you go to all-wheel drive, it's in the mid-50s. But again, in bad weather, it is going to make an enormous difference. The other thing to bring up as well is the engine. In the past, you got either 1.5 or 1.6 liter. You now get a 2 liter. It makes like 20 more horsepower than it used to. This makes just over 140, where in the past it used to make just over 120. However, you're now carrying an extra 200 to 300 pounds. The CVT is the only gearbox you get. I know, oh joy. However, this is their latest iteration of their lineartronic gearbox, or whatever Nissan calls it. Essentially, you have another oiling pump, you have a stronger gear set, the logic inside is better than it used to be. They're trying to ditch arguably the well-earned but tragic reputation that Nissan CVTs have. They're trying to make this a better vehicle overall than it used to be. The other big thing with this latest iteration of the Nissan Kicks is you get far more NVH material throughout, underneath and in the car, to quiet down the cabin, again, to make this feel like a more premium vehicle. When it comes to wheel options, you get the base poverty model, you have 16s. All the other trims get 17s. However, when you move up to the top trim like this vehicle has, you get 19s that are wrapped in a Bridgestone Alenza. All of these vehicles come on a all-season tire like this Alenza. However, if you are going to snow drive this vehicle, it is worthwhile budgeting for a dedicated set of snows. So with that, Mark's gonna go take you for a quick drive.
Nissan Kicks. Are you ready? I'm going to switch the D mode, which stands for Dwayne, in Sport. Let's see how she purrs. Well, I can tell you, it does not like when you brake torque it. It literally screwed up some type of performance in the transmission logic, so I'm going to try that again, but this time we're gonna launch it like a gentleman would, a regular Nissan driver. There she goes. Listen to that. Whoa. That CVT is just absolutely unloading the gobs of power to this 4-cylinder engine, and with the standard first-time all-wheel drive in this trim level for a Kicks, you have the athleticism that you're looking for. You know, it wasn't just the design decision to make this look like a shoe. They wanted to cut and weave and turn, which I haven't turned at all, but I can feel it in these Alenzas. The way that it's communicating the road in potential drunken benders on the highway, I know that I'm going to be able to dominate. But, okay. When you get over the performance, let's talk about what this thing does great. When I first drove it, I'm going to put Dwayne mode back into standard, not that it matters. I really enjoyed driving this. I know it sounds silly, but I love the simplicity of it. I love how everything works. It's not a frustrating car, and I say this about a lot of the commodity cars. When they're done right, like, you don't think about it. Everything blends into the background. The audio system's good. It handles just well enough to make you feel confident to drive. It's soft, it's supple. It does an exceptional job at isolating the road for this price point without feeling really shitty. So if you have like 25 grand and you want a new car, but I just feel like there's a good connection to this vehicle, the way that the inputs work, everything feels really natural, combined with the usability of the interior. The front occupant space is really good, and I like that it's more a back to basics type vehicle. And yeah, you're gonna argue Nissan's viability, and I understand that, but it's hard to argue. If you can get a good deal on one of these, I think you're going to like it if you like kind of the quirky styling of it. The safety suite is much improved than it used to be. It was kind of like an afterthought. Now things actually work quite well when you're talking about, you know, frontal crash mitigation. Some of the basic safety features just work without being annoying. Some brands, it's like constantly interfering. This car, it doesn't interfere, and it's easy to disable and tweak the things that you want. But I'm going to get into the final thoughts, and we're going to sum all this up.
You can interrupt the voice prompt. You can interrupt the voice prompt and give a command immediately.
How about you don't interrupt me when I'm... I don't interrupt me when I'm f***ing talking about you! Final thoughts. Here's the kicker. This car is pleasantly good to drive. It's got a really good interior. They're trying on the styling front, whether you like that or not. But the issue with this is every other brand is doing it really well. would you take this over the Honda equivalent, Toyota equivalent, or even, dare I say, the new Trax? They're all really trying to do the same thing. So while I really enjoyed driving this and appreciated some of the interior detail, my question about it is the attention to detail, because they have to do a lot here. They're having to do a lot to refresh all of their cars, and I feel like there's going to be certain things slipping through the cracks. My drive, I was able to uncover multiple CVT bugs and in calibration, which is not a great thing. So if you're buying this, you just better be prepared that you might have some issues with it. Now, the good thing is, because it's a more simple vehicle, serviceability is easy. Like, I could drop the rear subframe, the entire rear suspension in 10 minutes. I mean, that's crazy. And the front is, you know, obviously more complicated, but there's little things like that. Serviceability should be easier in some cases. It's still a naturally aspirated engine, but, you know, some of these things you're gonna have to weigh as a consumer. This is a really hard choice. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next video.